price of freedom is set. We're coming to get our check.
Black first, my brothers and my sisters, welcome to the Afro Elite YouTube channel. I'm your host, Afro Elite. The tardiness, that's because of technical issues that we were getting solved right before the live stream. Stuff happens, but we are here. We are here, and we definitely need to discuss a lot of things because Kamala, as you know, or Kamala Harris, she's come out with this black agenda. She's come out with this black plan. She's trying to appeal to black voters less than a month away from the election. And she's been going all over the place. She's been going to different independent platforms to have interviews, to have discussions, because what they feel, the DNC, and this is not just about her as an individual, this is really about the DNC. What the DNC feels is that social media, they understand that the youth, the black male and female youth, are leaving her, and they understand that we get a lot of our information from social media. So what they're planning on doing is flooding the zone with clips from social media. They understand sound bites can go a long way. So they're going on social media campaigns because their rallies really aren't hitting on anything. Their rallies really aren't making that much of a difference. That's why they had to pay for certain people to get bussed in. They do weird things with the lighting and so on and so forth. We got a lot of clips because we're going to be going through the different social media things that she's been going through. I appreciate everybody in here. We in here locked and loaded. We're in here heavy. Before we get started, as we're playing the copyright thing, make sure that you guys hit that like button and subscribe button on your way in. So before we play any of these clips, let's make sure the channel is protected. So where is it? Here we go. Copyright disclaimer. Under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. Right, so we got this clip. Okay, this is the most notorious clip she's ever had. She does not have a clip more notorious than this. I'm not going to play the whole thing. By now, it's ingrained in everybody's memory. We have to play this because they're going to do the thing where they're going to make it seem like this was somehow taken out of context. Whoop-de-whoop-de-whoop. So we're gonna discuss this, right? We're gonna discuss this. Okay. Here we go.
And we understand that that's part of why we're doing it. Listen, the reality also is this: any policy that will benefit Black people will benefit all of society. Let's be clear about that. Let's really be clear about that. So I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to do something that's only going to benefit Black people. No, because whatever benefits that Black family will benefit that community and society as a whole and the country. Right?
Now, let's be very clear. The context she's saying this in is because the fact she was asked, what are you going to do for Black people? She starts explaining about Black plight and the issues we suffer from disproportionately, which is what they all do. They explain the Black plight. They explain the issues we suffer from disproportionately in comparison to everybody else. And then what they do is they'll put a all lives matter, or everybody can benefit from policy, a lift all boats policy. So everybody gets a boost, a policy that is not proportionate to the harm that's done. We've had very particular harm that is being done to us. So we need a particular remedy for our community specifically. If we've been harm specific, then we need a specific remedy. That is how justice works. If we have been harmed specifically and then you give a remedy to everybody and everybody equally gets it, then what you fail to do is change the status quo, which is what their whole agenda is to say this is the solution, but their solutions, they understand, will never really change the status quo. So that's why she had the lift all boats thing. Actually, I want to go back to the clip a little, go back and pull it up a little bit. When she
take
when
into
the interview
account that they're not starting
double back on that
at the
question.
same place, and they're not starting
Hold on.
families, but there's not a particular policy.
Poverty.
So by default, it affects Black families, but there's not a particular policy for African Americans that you would explore.
But no, if you look at the reality of
See, but no, she said no, and this is the second time she said no. We don't even have to play that anymore. We can move on. She said no, and we have to understand because we're more politically sophisticated than we have ever been as a community. I want you guys to understand that. Now we're going to move on to the part where they're talking about this clip was taken out of context. Now she won on Roland No Neck Martin, and they bought the same exact clip up, and look at what they had to say about it. And of course, I zoomed in
Get right to it.
just so it doesn't have any copyright issues or whatever the case is. So this is an edited clip.
I walked out there. Someone posted a clip, and usually this the clip. I'm not going to sit here and say I don't do anything specifically for African Americans. But folks don't talk about what you said right before when you said that public policy that benefits Black folks, it benefits everybody else.
Right.
Even when we look at historically, Civil Rights Act, Voting Rights Act, it actually did just impact African Americans. It impacted everyone else. But talk about that because so many people have only clipped that one part without understanding the public policy implications.
That's too bad. That's too bad. I'm sorry to hear that. You're right. So you know that I mean, going back even before, but Dr. King was very clear, right? If you have certain policies that recognize, one, that not everybody starts out on the same base. If you have public policy, and I'm talking about economic public policy specifically at this point, but if you have public policy that recognizes historical barriers and what we need to do then to overcome, first speak truth about them and then overcome them, that in the process of doing that, not only are you directly dealing with the injustices and the legal and procedural barriers that have been focused on Black folks, but by eliminating those barriers, everyone actually benefits, right? And I know that to be true. So my policies include what I know is going to have a...
Now, here's the thing, what they always do, and she even talks about, they talk about Dr. King, they give a lot of names and stuff. These are buzzwords. These are words, I want you guys to understand, these are words that are supposed to have an emotional feeling when we hear these words. This is why they name certain bills, certain things. This is why they bring up certain names. This is why they name certain things. The Emmett Till lynching act, the George Floyd lynching act. Well, Dr. King fought for this. We're going to name things after specific people because that is supposed to have emotional weight to it. But in all actuality, the bill or whatever type of legislation doesn't have any real bite. And that's the whole agenda. So he's going to bring up, well, Dr. King said the same thing about the Civil Rights Act. And here's the thing. This is why Roland Martin doesn't know what he's talking about. This is why Roland Martin is a bad journalist and nobody takes him serious. She's only here because she's desperate. He fought for that because this is going to be something for Black people to counter racism. He did not do something for every single person. As a matter, or he did do something for everybody, but the thing is that he was fighting for Black people and everybody also got the benefits. He wasn't fighting for all lives matter thing and then say, well, Black people will disproportionately benefit. That's number one. Number two, and the main point is that if you were going to invoke the name of Dr. King, you also have to bring up the fact that Dr. King was actually fighting for reparations. If we got to play this clip. Because if you're going to bring up Dr. King, you got to bring Dr. King up in his proper context. Let's see. They took a lot of the clips down because of the technical issues that we had, but it's okay. If you're going to bring up Dr. King, you got to bring up this clip every single time.
At the same time that America refused to give the Negro any land, through an act of Congress, our government was giving away millions of acres of land in the West and the Midwest.
Does this not sound, if we talk about the issues that we're dealing with today, does what Dr. King said not sound exactly like what's going on with the immigrants right now? Now, when Dr. King was talking about this, he was talking about European immigrants. Now we're talking about Hispanic immigrants. We're literally going through the same problems Dr. King was talking about. While they're going to bring up, well, Dr. King was just for the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act. If you're going to bring up Dr. King's name, you have to put it in its proper context. This literally right before the government assassinated him, the same exact issue he was conveying to the Black people about going to Washington and getting our check. This is right before he said what he said about reparations and getting our check. He said the government is giving away millions of land and essentially what he's saying is resources, but he is talking about land. They are giving them land. That is the truth. So the same exact thing that Dr. King was talking about in the 1960s is what we're dealing with in 2024. And these are the people who are causing the same problems. Let's continue. Okay, come on.
Which meant that it was willing to undergird its white peasants from Europe with an economic floor. But not only did they give the land, they built land-grant colleges with government money to teach them how to farm. Not only that, they provided county agents to further their expertise in farming. Not only that, they provided low interest rates in order that they could mechanize their farms. Not only that, today many of these people are receiving millions of dollars in federal subsidies not to farm, and they are the very people telling the black man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps.
Y'all, let's just let that resonate. Let's let that sink in for a second. This is exactly what we're dealing with today in 2024. He's talking about immigrants who are coming over as a buffer class. This is what he's talking about. He's talking about a buffer class that is immigrated over here, that's being subsidized by the government to empower them economically so they can be, as a buffer class, they can fulfill their role as a buffer class above the foundational Black American community. This is exactly what he was talking about. And this is why the government had to assassinate him, because when he was on this page right here, he was on a role that they was not ready for. He was on a role that was way too dangerous. So they was all like, okay, well, we got to get him out of the paint now, because he's not talking about sitting at a table and having dinner with white folk. He's not talking about all of that stuff. He was still very dangerous then, mind you. But now he's on a totally different page. He's on a more Black first page. Oh, no, we got to get him out. We got to get him out of here. All right. This is the same thing he's talking about. Do you think, for all of the people who talk about our ancestors died for us to have the right to vote, do you think this Dr. King right here, this Dr. King, I'm not talking about, in much respect to his development, but I'm not talking about the Dr. King who's all like white kids and black kids sitting at a lunch table and having lunch together. I'm talking about this Dr. King. I'm talking about the pro-reparations, we coming to get our check, Dr. King. Not we can all overcome. Not no non-violence, Dr. King. I'm talking about the real OG doctor. Do you think he would have voted for Kamala Harris? Do you think he would vote for Joe Biden? Do you think he would be a Democrat? Honestly, today. And I'm not saying he would be for Trump or a Republican, but do you honestly believe that he would be out here campaigning and marching for the Democratic Party? Do you think that? We all know Malcolm X wouldn't have done that. But do you think, because they like to bring him up, because they know Malcolm, we already know Malcolm X wouldn't have ever been on that planet. He's really, to be very honest, Malcolm X is really the first person we can really remember to specifically call out the liberal party, the white liberals in the Democratic Party. Okay. Can you think of somebody before Malcolm X was saying it, anybody before him, to a large degree? Maybe somebody here or there, but not to no large, not putting it on no big platform. Malcolm X was the first one to really put it out there that the white liberals in the Democratic Party is just as anti-black as the conservatives. Okay, so we already know he would have never been on that page. But this Dr. King wouldn't have been on that page either. You mean to tell me you're allowing millions of illegals to come over here as a buffer class, the same thing he was talking about, and you think he would have been on this page? I'm telling you right now, if Dr. King or Malcolm X was alive today, none of them would have been on this Democratic plantation. They would have been leading the charge for them to get off the Democratic plantation. All right. So we got to put this into context, but of course we got to play the rest of the clip, because here comes the best part.
And this is what we are faced with, and this is the reality. Now, when we come to Washington in this campaign, we are coming to get our check.
Hey, look, Now, when you bring up Dr. King, you got to bring that up. So don't just bring up Dr. King in vain. So we had to play the whole thing. Now let's go back to the clip we're rolling. I'm going to take it back a couple seconds.
But
We
by
got a
eliminating
lot
those
of
barriers,
people in
everyone
here. We
actually
have a lot of
benefits.
people in here, almost 300 people, 15 minutes. Y'all make sure you guys hit that like button. All right. Hit that like button. Let's go.
Right? And I know that to be true. So my policies include what I know is going to have a profound impact on Black folks around economic policy, but everyone will benefit from them. I intend to create as president what I have named an opportunity economy that taps into the ambitions and the aspirations and the dreams of the American people, and then addresses those in a way that recognizes, unlike my opponent who was handed $400 million on a silver platter and then filed bankruptcy 6 times, not everyone has access to those kinds of resources, but when you give people access to those resources, they thrive and we all benefit. Opportunity economy. That's why I say I'm going to make sure that we give first-time home buyers with $25,000 down payment assistance. Because again, we know that when you look at the history of how Black folks have been denied the opportunity for home ownership, be it redlining or what we know has still been happening around a bias in home appraisals, that it is a barrier to achieving intergenerational success. But when we address it by doing things like helping folks get their foot in the door with a down payment assistance, they will have the ability to be on that track of intergenerational wealth building.
No. And we're gonna have to I know a lot of people who actually are realtors. I know a lot of people who sell house or whatever the case is, and I've actually done interviews with real estate agents on this very channel. What she's saying is incorrect. If you are going to remedy the issue of redlining was done to us specifically. So if you're going to remedy that, then you need to do something specific for our community that you're not doing to everybody else. If you say we were specifically held out, we were specifically discriminated against when it comes to the housing market, when it comes to home ownership. So what we're going to do to remedy that is we're going to give everybody an equal opportunity, every new person an equal opportunity to buy a home. That doesn't help the people that you have been disproportionately discriminated against. If you give everybody a boost, if you're in a race and you have shackles on one runner and then the other runner gets to run freely and they run a couple of laps, and then you say, you know what we're going to do? We're going to give everybody an equal boost. The person who's still in first place is still going to be in first place. The status quo is not going to change. This is not going to help. Another thing as well too, the first time homeowners, a lot of this is going to be for the immigrant community. A lot of this is going to be for the illegal aliens who are coming over here. They're going to apply and they're going to get houses just the same way they've been getting houses. We talked about that in Chicago recently. They've been getting houses. So if you as a citizen have tried to get a house before and unfortunately it was foreclosed on, you wasn't able to keep your house for whatever the case is, or you got a house and you're looking for another house, whatever the case is, this won't apply to you. This is not going to apply to you. This is an immigrant program. So let's be very clear with that. This is the same thing Dr. King was talking about. Them coming over and they're doing things for the immigrant American community. But the problem is that she's trying to make it seem like, well, Black people have been discriminated. We got to really chop this. Black people have been discriminated. She always words it like that first. And then her remedy is, I'm going to do something for everybody. But she thinks that if she talks about Black people discrimination and then she talks about a solution, she thinks that we're going to just assume that that solution is for that problem. If I say, and I'm going to give an example, right? If somebody has a cold, you give them some type of a cough. Let's say you give them a cough medicine. You give them a cough drop, right? Or some type of cough syrup or something like that. So if somebody says they have a really bad cold, they have a cough, they have a very nasty cough or whatever the case is, and I say, during the wintertime, a lot of people get colds, a lot of people have bad coughs, and that can be contagious. One person can give it to another person, and next thing you know, the whole house has a bad cough or whatever the case is. So what my solution is going to be, I'm going to give you Tylenol for a headache. You're going to give me Tylenol for a headache. I don't have a headache. I have a cough. See, don't get tricked up by that. I can just talk about the problem and then I can give a solution, but the solution is not connected to solving that problem. You give people Tylenol for a cough, that's not going to help the cough. Tylenol is not for helping the cough. Advil is not for helping a cough. So what she's talking about redlining and then gives a solution that is not going to remedy the problem she just discussed. But the problem is that we're smart enough to realize that now. Let's let her continue, though.
Plan for extending and expanding the child tax credit, $6,000 for the first year of a child's life. Because our parents, just like any parent, have a natural desire to parent their children well, but not always the resources to do that. So $6,000 in the first year of your child's life helps you buy that car seat or crib or the clothes that are necessary to build the foundation for that important phase of their development that gets them on the right track.
Yeah, but and that's cool. I don't have any children, but that's cool. But how many parents can say that $6,000 for the first year of your child's life is really going to be a huge game changer like that? And so this is not just for Black children. This is for any and everybody who has a child. But it's $6,000 for one single year. It's not like you get $6,000 until I can see $6,000 until maybe they're like 10 years old or even 5 or something like that. You get $6,000 for one single year. That's not really phenomenal. Anybody who has a kid, especially nowadays with the crazy rates of inflation, that's not really going to make that much of a difference. That's really not going to help like that. Before we play the next clip, I want to give a shout out to who is this? This is our brother Antithesis. I appreciate you, brother, like always. Yo, MC23, I appreciate you. Thank you very much for your super sticker. Thank you. And then Willis Anderson says, bingo, good to see younger gens are hip to the game. Oh, yeah, we're very hip. She's not going to be able to finesse us at all. She's not. Now, keep going to Roland. He goes right here, another clip. And then this is where he talks about the immigrant problem. And we're definitely going to get into this.
What do you say to African Americans specifically about immigration and how are you going to deal with that? Because there was a reason folks were being sent to various cities to create the tension. But it's talked about. It's there. It is a real concern. So what do you say to African Americans specifically who say, shut it all down, folks can't come in, close the border, who sound in many ways like MAGA folks?
So you guys understand, this is why she's losing. She's not just losing because of her. Let's be very honest. She's losing because of all of the people trying to help her. Everybody who's trying to help her is making her look bad. I want you to think about this as an independent. Imagine you're in a city like Chicago, you're in a city like New York, you're in a city that mainly is Chicago and New York, but let's say you might be Chicago, New York, Denver, the Carolinas, Los Angeles. They're pretty much everywhere now, to be very honest with you. They're everywhere, to be very honest. But in the major cities, let's say you're an independent and you're seeing, hey, this is a problem. I'm not for MAGA, but I do understand that these immigrants, these are people who are causing the problem. I want you to understand, we talked about the immigrant Venezuelans, the Venezuelan gangs in Colorado taking over whole apartment complexes. Imagine you paying your rent at your apartment. Let's take this off the screen and imagine you paying your rent at your apartment. You got new furniture. They're just renewed everything and fixed all the walls and everything. This is where you stay. This is where your children stay, in this apartment. You go to work, you come home, you're a citizen, you deserve to be here, everything. And then a Venezuelan gang comes over and takes over the entire apartment complex. You're going to the mayor about it. They don't really do anything. You're going to the local police department. They're not really doing anything about it. Just imagine that. They're not really doing anything about it. And you all like, hey, I'm not like anti-immigrant or xenophobic or whatever the case is, but this was my home essentially. And you guys just let them take my home over. Now I gotta relocate. I gotta find another place to live because they ran up in my apartment, kicked the door down with a big assault rifle and told me to get out. Now I got to find another place to live. And then you telling me that if I have a problem with that, I sound like MAGA. This is what Roland just said. Let me take it back. So anybody, which they're saying, anybody who just doesn't roll over and allow the immigrants to just do whatever they want to their communities or to them, because let's be very honest with you, these are immigrants, and we've discussed this on multiple occasions, who are coming over here assaulting women, assaulting children. And when I say assault, y'all know what I mean. I can't be too graphic, but you guys know what I mean. Assaulting them, ending their life. And this has happened on multiple occasions. I'm talking about things far worse than just running into Macy's and grabbing a purse or grabbing some perfume or a coat and selling that on the street. I'm talking about they're violating their bodies. While they want to talk about bodily autonomy, you're having immigrants come over here and they're violating everybody. They're violating people's physical bodily autonomy. Women, children, stealing from old ladies, assaulting people. And then you say, hey, you know what? Let's be honest. I got an issue with this. And then Roland gets up there and says, you sound like MAGA. You sound like MAGA. What do you think how that's gonna resonate with people? If so, you mean to tell me if I don't want my my family to be violated, if I don't want somebody to immigrant gang, a prison gang, because they've confirmed their prison gangs, to bust in somebody's house and take advantage of the women and children and then take the entire complex, I'm MAGA? That's what he just said. I want you to really hear. This is literally the logic. This is literally what he just said. So if you just don't want to be a victim of an immigrant, you must be MAGA.
Close the border, who sound in many ways like MAGA folks.
So first of all, I have prosecuted transnational criminal organizations for the trafficking of guns, drugs, and human beings. I have had a career, including now, of prioritizing that we must have a secure border. And in fact, on the issue of immigration, let's be clear, some of the most conservative members of the United States Congress, together with others, had a bill to secure the border even more. And Donald Trump got wind of it. And because he thought it would hurt his political chances in this election, told him not to put it up for a vote. He killed the bill that would have put.
And we've seen that so often. We've seen that so often. And this is a deflection. This doesn't really even address his question. His question is, what would you say? What would you say to where he said African Americans? What would you say to Black Americans who have an issue with that? Oh, well, my whole career has been against. No, it hasn't been. She's had so many clips where she said she sees no difference. She was allowing them to come over. They're going to get medical care and everything like that. They don't have to pay for anything. And we've talked about this for years. But what I do want you to do is I want you to remember her saying this right here, because this is going to be relevant when we play another clip later on. Okay, it's going to be very, very relevant. So remember, this is her answer when they were talking about immigration. It's not looking good. And the whole thing with Roland, it was very short, very brief, but those were the two main points. But she's been going all over the place. She even went to, very surprisingly to me, she went to the Shade Room and she did an interview with, I guess, a manager or maybe the owner or whatever of the Shade Room. And this is what they, okay. And I want you to know, this is why people are not going for her. This is why people are not backing her. People are not backing her because every single time she's doing this stuff, she's having these interviews. She has these interviews where people treat her like they give her softball interview questions. They hand her the answer. Before we even play this, actually, let's go back to what she said right here with Roland.
I'll try it.
Let's get right to it. Right before I walked out there, someone posted a clip, and usually this, the clip, I'm not going to sit here and say I don't do anything specifically for African Americans. But folk don't talk about what you said right before when you said that public policy that benefits Black folks, it benefits everybody else.
Right.
Even when we look at historically, Civil Rights Act, voting rights.
So here's the thing. This is why she's losing. Let me go back to this one. This is why she's losing. Because every single time somebody gives her a question, they give her the answer with the question. Do you understand this clip that was taken out of context? Why don't you speak on this clip? They're doing this because they know she messes up so bad. They have to give her the answer as they're giving her the question. They give her all these multiple choice questions. They give her the easiest questions. They allow her to dodge all the questions. They give her the answers with the question. He didn't even state the question before he gave her and stated it was out of context. He said, hold on, this clip that's out of context. This is how you know he's a bad journalist and nobody takes him serious. Because if you're a good journalist, you're just going to ask the raw question and then allow her to answer however she wants to answer. You're not going to ask a leading question. This is in journalism, as I would know, this is what would be called a leading question in certain cases, but this is even more so. You're literally giving her the answer. You're saying, hey, the clip that was taken out of context, remember, da. So what do you think about this? And then she answers, oh, well, it was taken out of context. She's saying that because you just told her to say that. These interviews are not moving the needle at all. I want y'all to see what this was in the shade room. Look at this. Look at this, y'all. God.
Mm-hmm. One big theme of your campaign has been freedom.
Yes.
Freedom, right?
Yes. Yes.
Freedom, freedom, I can't lose. I'm not going to mess up the words, and I don't want to get sued
it's so
by
good.
Beyonce.
And there are a couple versions that she has, right?
I know. Did you call up the queen? Like, how did that work?
She absolutely gave me permission to use the song. I love her, and
have you met her?
I have met her, but not since I've been running just now.
Okay.
But I have met her, and she's just very special.
Yeah. Talk about freedom and what that means to you. Why that song? It's just imperative. It's crucial right now what's going on in 2024.
To be very honest, I would say this accurately represents the shade room. You got to keep that real. You got to keep that real. And let's be honest, this stuff right here, do you think that moves the needle? This stuff doesn't move the needle. It doesn't move the needle whatsoever. When you're sitting up there this is literally a month before the election. Now, I'm not exactly sure when she did this, but she did this relatively recently. This is a month before the election, and you sitting up there talking about, have you met Beyonce? Who cares if she's met Beyonce? Oh, you use the word freedom, and then he tried to do his little singing thing. What are you doing? This is why when people look at this stuff, people get turned off. This is why she's losing. Let me show you something real quick. And we talked about this the other day. This is why, as far as the independents are concerned, she's actually losing the independent voters. She's actually getting worse as Donald Trump is getting better, because when Donald Trump is having an interview, love him or hate him, nobody is out there trying to sing. When Donald Trump is doing his thing, nobody's sitting up there talking about, have you ever met Beyonce? Well, you use 50 Cent, Many Men. Have you ever met 50 Cent before? Nobody's sitting up there doing that. And people can take his stuff, love him or hate him, more serious. What he's doing right here, this is not a one-on-one conversation with a friend. You're supposed to be having a serious interview. She's not doing good in the polls right now. You sitting up there joking and laughing and everything like that, when the main problem is the fact that people do not feel like she's answering the questions that they want to be answered. People feel as if she's dodging the questions and that she's getting these softball questions, so people don't know her stance on things. And you have the opportunity to sit with the current vice president who's running for the presidency less than a month before the election, and you want to sing. You want to sing. You want to talk about, have you ever met Beyonce, and talk about what does freedom mean to you? This is why nobody takes that serious. This is why these interviews are not moving the needle, because people want real unbiased questions. To be very honest, what she should have done is she should have went on opposing channels and have people give pushback to her stances. The thing is that the reason why she's losing is because of the fact that the independents, which I am, which I believe every black person should be, The reason why she's losing is because we see clearly everywhere she goes, she's being coddled. She's being handed the answers. She's being allowed to dodge the questions. She's being allowed to lie. She's being boosted up and put on this pedestal where nobody can criticize her. The interviewer is already clearly and openly showing their bias. The debate is clearly and openly showing their bias. This is why she's losing, because as an independent would look at this and be all like, I can't really trust that her or her policies or her character, because everywhere she goes, I can see it's controlled. She's in these small little echo chambers that is told beforehand, make sure she looks good. So they're giving her the answers before they even give her the question. I can't, listen, let's use this other analogy. Imagine you're at a spelling bee. We got a lot of people up in here. I appreciate you guys, and you guys have been on that algorithm thing with the hundreds. I appreciate that. Let's use this analogy. You're at a spelling bee and they say, spell this word, whatever this word is, just spell this word real quick. But before they tell you to spell the word, they spell the word for you. Before they even tell you what the word, just imagine this. Before they tell you what the word is, they spell the word. They spell whatever the word is. They be all like, spell okay, if imagine this, they'd be all like HAPPY, okay, spell happy. You already gave them the answer. This is how bad they are. And then somebody all like, well, HAPPY. Ding, wow, you're so smart. Nobody's gonna think you're smart. They already gave you the answer. They spelled the question before they asked you to spell it. You just repeated what you heard. So as a judge, you're going to be all like, well, I can't tell if this person was going to spell it correctly or not, because the person asking them the question already spelled it for them. So who knows what she was going to say? And this is not good. This is going to make me think that you were probably going to spell it wrong. This is having the reverse effect. I said this during the debate. All of this coddling and making sure she gets the answer right and making sure she doesn't look bad, this is going to have the reverse effect. I said this a long time ago. It's going to have the reverse effect, because to a critical thinker, to somebody who's independent and will look at everything objectively, they're going to look like, well, if you're giving her the answer before or with the question, I just have to assume that she was probably not going to get the question right anyway. She was probably not going to get the answer right. So that is a negative in my book. They're messing her up with this. Now let's go, because she did a town hall thing with Charlemagne. She did a town hall thing with Charlemagne, and I already edited the clips and everything like that. And I want to look at I want you guys to look at this. I think it's very interesting. So this is the first thing.
For Kamala is,
now with the town hall, they had people walk in and they had people call in. This was one of the call-ins.
why are we, and I say we because my tax dollars is sending the money, why are we sending money to other countries when we desperately need it in our own country for homeless, housing, resources, for whatever? That is my determining factor if I vote for Kamala or not.
That was a good question. That was, to be very honest, that was the best call-in question she had. That was absolutely by far the best call-in question she had, period.
That's one of the reasons the America First rhetoric resonates, because nobody in America would complain about where money was going if American citizens' everyday needs were being met. So what do you say to that?
We can do it all, and we do.
We can do it all, and we do. Clearly, you can't do it all. You haven't been doing it all. Her thing is, we can do it all. And clearly, you cannot. And we do, and you do what? We're not getting the resources that you're giving to Ukraine. We're not giving the resources that you're giving to everybody overseas. Anybody who says, hey, I could use a little money. Well, I mean, we got a few billion here. Can that help? Yeah. We're not getting we can do it all, and we do, which ultimately means she does not plan on stopping it. This answer reflects the fact that she doesn't see the fact that the American government is prioritizing giving money and resources overseas versus to the American people. Because she's, why are you giving it to them versus us? And let me tell you something. As American citizens, we should get everything first. We should absolutely get everything first. If there is something left to help an ally or whatever the case is, okay, fine. If we straight, you can give it to them. But you're not going to sit up there and say we're of equal priority. No, because we're the ones who actually work in the economy and subsidize it in the first place. You wouldn't even be able to send any money to Ukraine, all these other places overseas. You wouldn't be able to send any money anywhere had the citizens not been subsidizing it and working. If we weren't doing that, there would be no money in America for you to send anywhere. Let's be very clear about that. That's a phrase she likes to use. Let's be very clear about that. So let's be very clear. And then for you to say we can and we do, you've done what? She wouldn't be calling if you guys have been doing that. There's been people, and this has been not just her, the entire Democratic Party. You guys are very frivolous with your spending, very frivolous with your spending when it comes to certain particular things. And then you guys neglect resources, and you guys don't dispense resources where it's really needed. So if you're going to tell me that, well, we can and we do, hold on. No, you don't. Because we ain't straight here. Let's finish listening to her answer, though.
So, first of all, I maintain very strongly America should never pull ourselves away from our responsibility as a world leader. And that is in the best interest of our national security and each one of us as Americans and our standing in the world. That being said, we also have an obligation to American citizens, obviously, and people who are here to meet their everyday needs and challenges, which is why
I don't even like the way she answered it in the order that she answered it. Let's be real. Let's be very real. The fact that she ordered it that we have an obligation to our allies and then said we also have an obligation to the citizens. No, but just based off of the order in which she answered that question lets you know her priorities and how she views the answers, how she views the priorities of America. You don't say, yeah, we also have an obligation to you as if we're in second place. Imagine you as a parent, any of you guys, we got hundreds of parents in here. I know a lot of you guys are parents in here. Imagine you tell your kid, yeah, I have an obligation to help the homeless, but I also have an obligation to help you too. I have an obligation to, help my coworkers, but I also have an obligation to, feed you guys. No, you don't say also. We as the American citizens should be the priority, the main priority. And if, let's be honest, if you guys do have an obligation, it should come after us. It shouldn't be, well, we have an obligation to help them. But, we do have an obligation to help you too. We were an afterthought in her answering. How she answered the question, the order in which she answered the question is very telling. Continuing with her answer.
For example, we have done the work in the last 4 years of bringing down the cost of prescription medication, whether it be $35 a month for seniors for insulin or $2,000 a year cap on prescription medication. What we have done that has been about putting $17 billion in our HBCUs. I am proud to be the first HBCU vice president of the United States. I intend to be the first HBCU president of the United States. Those resources are about sending them to centers of academic excellence that I know them to be. The work that I continue to do is about increasing access to capital for our small businesses.
Now, before she even gets to the small businesses and capital, she's already completely botched this question. This question is already botched, all right? She talked about homeless people, homeless veterans. Remember when I went viral at City Hall in Chicago talking about the homeless veterans? And I said that they're sleeping on the floor, and Chicago is giving millions of dollars, up to really $1 billion for illegal immigrants. They're in hotel rooms, they're in special customized shelters and everything for them, but they're not doing that for actual veterans and citizens and people trying to live day by day. They're not doing that. That's essentially the same question that this young lady asked when she was like, okay, well, you guys are doing this for this. This is going to determine, and I'm glad she said this too. This is very important to her. This is going to determine if I vote for you or if I don't. All right. So when she asks about, well, there's homeless people here. And then next thing you know, her answer talks about, yeah, we cut the cost of prescription drugs. Man, what? Nobody asked about, if you tell a homeless person, I know you're homeless, you've been living on the streets, you've been eating the scraps you can, you've been asking for $1 just so you can get a sandwich or something like that. You literally have to sleep on concrete under a bridge every night. You got big rats running across your face as you try to get some sleep. You know, you can't shower, you can't really go to the bathroom anywhere. You sleep in a cardboard tent. And immigrants who are coming over here, not really legally, but they're coming over here. They're in that big, that big hotel that you've been staring at from the street as you guys have been sleeping on the street. They're in that hotel right there. But we've cut the cost of insulin for diabetes. So if you have insulin and you save up enough money, you don't have to pay as much for it. Nobody asks about prescription drugs. This is not saving America. This is not changing the fact that you guys are prioritizing them, because what you're not doing is you're not giving Ukraine insulin. You're not giving these other countries insulin. You're giving them actual resources for them to do what they need to do to thrive. And you're telling us we getting insulin. The immigrants that are coming over to America, let me be very clear about this. They're coming over illegally. They're getting houses, like not just hotels. They're not just sleeping in hotels. They're actually becoming homeowners. They're getting houses. They're getting prioritized when it comes to jobs. They're getting prioritized when it comes to resources. They're getting a slap on the wrist when they commit any crime. They're getting anything they want. This is heaven to them. This is heaven. They've never seen anything like this before. You're not giving them insulin. Don't come up to me. You gave them a house. Talk about you gave me some cheaper insulin. Don't know. That's offensive and it's disrespectful. Let's continue. This is her non-answer. This is why she's not moving the needle.
It is about increasing the opportunity for home ownership, knowing that Black people are 40% less likely to be homeowners in America. We have a history of legal and procedural obstacles to that home ownership, starting with the fact nobody got 40 acres and a mule, to redlining, to issues that this Detroit area and people around the country know to be real.
Okay. This is, like I said, this is going to really mess her up. It's really going to mess her up because she's not answering the questions. She's not. People are calling in, which is the thing is that they've tried to avoid even getting to this point. Let's be very honest. Let's be very clear. She's tried to avoid getting to this point where people get to call in, even though they're screening these calls. Most of these calls are screened. The people who are walking in asking their question, they're all vetted and screened. Most of these people are asking softball questions, and she already has a full awareness of the question that they're going to ask. So she already has this pre-prepared answer in her head. Nothing is coming off the dome. Nothing is coming off the top of her head. She already has a coached answer as to all of these questions. She already knows all of them. And it's still not moving the needle because she's still messing up. She knows what they're going to say, and she's still messing up. Nobody's talking about what you're gonna do is we're gonna help people with home ownership. Because no, why are you giving them money? Essentially, what she just said, all of this word salad, if you break it down, saying she's not going to stop giving them any money. That's essentially what she just said. Whatever we're giving them, we're gonna just continue to give them. That's what she just said. Now let's go on to the next one, because boy, when I tell you, they had some screen callers in here. Before we get to that, let's get to the super chats. Shout out to, let's see, J Bone says another 3,000 caravan from Mexico coming. That probably very true. Probably very true, and thank you very much for that. We probably still got to get ready. They probably still sneaking them through the border. And then we have says Diablo, I can't see, Diablo mix, I believe it's pronounced, says Kamala thinks she'll survive 2 hours of Rogan. No, she won't. Y'all, if y'all want to see her get destroyed in something, y'all stay tuned, because we got something for you. We have something for you, okay? Y'all think that this stuff is bad, and I'm going to show you why she is losing. Y'all just stay tuned, because I got something bigger than this, all right? Let's go to this, and let me show you how screened and botched this stuff is. Look at this. Look at this right here. Hold on.
Hi, I'm Bobby from Georgia, and I have a question for Kamala Harris. Could you please respond to Trump's claim that he's going to use the Alien Enemies Act of 1798 to round up immigrants if he wins the election? This law was last used to put Asian Americans in internment camps during World War II, and I have a sneaking suspicion that if Trump wins, he's going to use this law to put anyone that doesn't look white in camps, and I'm scared.
Y'all, did y'all hear what he just said? Y'all hear what he just said? Okay, first off, how he sounded, y'all can make that out. I mean, he from Atlanta. Y'all can make out what that means, right? They're going to use the immigrant law to put everybody who doesn't look white in camps. And he's scared. Listen to how he said he's scared. Listen to how he said he was scared. And I'm scared.
Camps during World War II, and I have a sneaking suspicion that if Trump wins, he's going to use this law to put anyone that doesn't look white in camps, and I'm scared. And I'm scared. And I'm scared. And I'm scared.
Okay, do you? This is why she's not. What? You scared? First off, if you're a legal citizen, you shouldn't be scared of nothing. As a foundational Black American, they can't deport us. This whole threat of, oh my God, they're going to put everybody in, they're going to all deport you. No, they not. No, they are not. We have, where would we be deported? Where would we be deported? Where would you send us? You're not going to deport us. When Donald Trump was the president for the 4 years he didn't deport a single foundational Black American. Not a single foundational Black American got deported whatsoever. So we ain't got nothing to worry about. Now, maybe you do, but if you got something to worry about, if you're scared, you probably got something to worry about. You probably might not need to be here if you're scared. Because we not scared. He gonna round up every non-white person? He would do that for what? You're not even thinking logically. He would do that in what? Every non-white person, he's gonna round us up, and then what? He's gonna send every non-white person out of America? Do you think he's gonna do that? Like he didn't even come close to even thinking about that idea when he was the president for 4 years, but now he's gonna do that. He's gonna round us up and then do what? What do you think? What type of immature thinking is that? I'm scared. Dude, what? And then look at her answer. Come on, look at her answer. That is ridiculous. Okay, it takes a little second, but listen.
Yeah. So
You've hit on a really important point and expressed it, I think, so well, which is he is achieving his intended effect to make you scared. He is running full time on a campaign that is about instilling fear, not about hope, not about optimism, not about the future, but about fear. And so this is yet another example. Look what he.
The average American is not afraid. To be very honest, the deportation he's talking about is for people who, let's be very honest, should be deported. These people have crossed the border illegally. These people are flooding the zone. America cannot handle this. That's why Eric Adams was sitting up there panicking. That's why Brandon Johnson was sitting up there panicking. The American mayors, all of the mayors and the governors, they don't know how to handle none of this stuff. Nobody has ever seen in American history anything close to this before. That's why all of them are sitting up there panicking, saying that they cannot handle this. So yes, they need to go. This ain't got nothing. Nope, it ain't personal. This ain't personal, but they have to leave. What are you talking? Are you scared of what? And she's all like, this is what Donald Trump does. He ain't scaring me. And of course, this is somebody who was supposed to call because they're supposed to make Donald Trump seem like this super scary boogeyman. I'm not scared of this. If you scared of this, maybe you might be on that list of people who need to go. I'm gonna be honest.
Did in saying that those legal immigrants in Springfield, Ohio, were eating their pets. And by the way, the hypocrisy of it abounds because on the issue of immigration, let's be clear, some of the most conservative members of the United States Congress, working with others, came up with a border security bill, which was the strongest, toughest border security bill in a long, long time. It would have put 1,500 more border agents at the border. It would have reduced the flow of fentanyl into our country, which is killing people all over our country of every race and background. It would have
reduced it. I want you to, she always says that. I mean, she's memorized stuff. She has an interest in memory because she's memorized that. She's memorized that. And she's talking about illegal immigrants. It would have reduced the flow of fentanyl. Fentanyl in America had a huge spike because they allowed immigrants to come in like that. They allowed these illegals to come in like that. Fentanyl's been a problem for years. Let's be very honest. Okay. Because we got to tell accurate information. Fentanyl has been a problem for years, but fentanyl had a huge spike under the Biden-Harris administration. And you can look this up. And they'll even admit this. The Biden-Harris administration, they'll admit this. Fentanyl had a huge spike in America under his administration. So to say, yeah, we would bring it down, you're going to bring down a problem you brought up. You're not going to get no points for that. We got to use this other analogy. Imagine you have a kid, right? Thank you for the Cash App. I'm going to get to the Cash Apps in just a second. Imagine you have a child. And the child trying to get some juice or something out of the refrigerator or whatever the case is, drops the juice. There's juice all over the kitchen floor. And then the child gets a mop, mops it all up. Do you give the kid a cookie for mopping up the juice? I wouldn't. Now, I don't got no kids. I don't know how y'all do. I would not do that. You spilt the juice. Yes, you clean it up. You clean up your own mess. You're not going to get no extra points for cleaning up a mess you made. You're not going to, no. We supposed to give you points for cleaning up a mess that you made, a mess that you were not supposed to make, especially if you weren't supposed to be touching that juice in the refrigerator and you was doing something you wasn't supposed to do, and then you made a mess, and then you trying to clean it up, and you want me to give you props for cleaning up a mess you was never supposed to make. That's bad parenting. We wouldn't do that. The same way we're not going to give the Democrats, Harris, Biden, we're not going to give them any points for the attempt to clean up a mess that they created. If fentanyl had already been an issue in America for years, why would you allow unvetted millions of illegals to come over here and then have a huge spike in fentanyl? and then say, well, you know what, 6 months before the election, we're going to form a bill so we can put more border agents to bring it down. You created this huge, unprecedented problem. So don't say, well, we created the solution for the problem we caused, so should we get points for that? No, you should not. Whether even if it passed, you wouldn't get points from me. You're not going to get points. That's like giving a cookie to the kid who made a mess and cleaned it up. You won't get no extra cookie for cleaning up a mess you made. Come on. What the hell is that?
Would have allowed us to do more work on prosecuting transnational criminal organizations, which I have done in my career. Trump got word that that bill was afoot, knew it would fix the problem, and told his buddies in Congress to kill the bill. And you know why? Because he would prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And he's running his campaign.
Now, I want you to hear and that's what she says all of the time. She would prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. He would let me know. This is the same thing. Listen to this.
Trump got word that that bill was afoot, knew it would fix the problem, and told his buddies in Congress to kill the bill. And you know why? Because he would prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem.
Is that not the same thing, the exact same thing she said right here?
And because he thought it would hurt his political chances in this election, told him not to put it up for a vote. He killed the bill that would have put 1,500 more border agents at the border, which is why the border agent union supported it. That bill would have stemmed the flow of fentanyl, which is affecting people of every race and background and geographic location in our country. That bill would have given more resources to prosecute transnational criminal organizations. Donald Trump.
Now here comes the line. He did it because he would prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing. Here comes that line. Listen, y'all.
Told him cancel that bill because he wants to run on a problem instead of fix a problem. I'm about fixing problems.
She said every time anybody brings up immigration, she brings this up and says the same exact. This is why it's not going anywhere. She says literally the same thing. He would prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem.
That bill because he wants to run on a problem instead of fix a problem.
And he's running his campaign in a way that he does would fix a problem, and told his buddies in Congress to kill the bill. And you know why? Because he would prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And
I want you guys to understand, when somebody repeatedly gives you the same answer in the same wording, she literally doesn't even change the wording of the problem, of the answer. I mean, she doesn't do that whatsoever. That literally means, this is proof. If you guys are teachers or anything like that, or let's say for some of the people who have been actors or whatever the case is, actors remember their lines in the exact sequence that they're supposed to remember their lines in. They remember, anytime we have this question, this is already, I remember, say it exactly like this. She says it exactly like that the whole time. Every time. Oh, we had conservative people who wanted to sign this bill, and it would have done this, it would have done this, it would have done this. But you know what happened? Donald Trump, he made a call and decided to kill the bill because he would prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. Literally every single time anybody brings up immigration, this is her already pre-programmed answer. So you know it's not genuinely coming from her. It's coming from somebody who sat there. These are people who are on her campaign. They sat there and said, Miss Harris, you have a bad immigration problem. So what we're going to do is we're going to develop your answer. Anytime they say anything about this, you answer in this way. Don't try to remix it. Don't change the words to it. You specifically answer this specific way. Don't change anything. This is what she is told to say every single time. All right. Every time. And this is why people are not resonating with that. Our good brother Torian is in the building. He says, why are you not helping your BFF try and win this election? He might be, I guess you're talking about what, like Joe Biden. Well, shout out to Torian. You talking about Joe Biden? Who are you talking about, Torian? Shout out. I appreciate that. I think he's talking about Joe Biden or anybody, to be very honest. Most of these people are not really trying to help. Most of these people are actually making things worse. Shout out to Virtual Syndicate says that bill also had 50 billion to Ukraine. That's another fine print issue that a lot of people don't talk about. That's a really good point. That's very, very important too. That bill also sends more money that could have been used for America or even for the border. That bill has more money going to Ukraine. At this point, I don't think anybody can keep track of how many billions of dollars they've sent to Ukraine in the last couple of years. In the last couple of years, there's been so much money sent to Ukraine. It is insane. It is literally insane. The definition of insanity. Okay, I'm not just saying it's insane. I'm saying it based off of the definition of insanity. That's doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. If you're sending this money to Ukraine over and over and over, you're expecting a different result. That's insane. That is literally insane. Let me get to the cash apps. Let me all right, hold on. Where is it? Shout out to Cyberdyne. Shout out to our good brother Cyberdyne and to Kimberly. I appreciate you. Thank you so very much. Thank you so very much for that. Now let's get to the whole reparations thing. Oh, she said something about reparations. She said something about reparations. Let's get to that. And this is on the town hall. Guest walked in and asked her about reparations. So this is what she had to say.
It has to be studied. There's no question about that. And
it has to be studied. There's no question.
I've been very clear about that position. In terms of
you giving money to all these immigrants don't have to be studied. You giving money to all these illegals don't have to be studied. You giving money to all these other these people don't have they don't have to be studied. It doesn't have to be studied. It don't got to be studied. So no, we're not gonna do the whole I mean, it has to be studied. None of the other money you give it to nobody else. Why is it only us that has to be studied so seriously? No. Let's continue.
My immediate plan, I will tell you a few of the following. One, as it relates to the economy, which is a lot of what you have addressed. Look, I grew up in the middle class. My mother, worked hard, raised me and my sister, and by the time I was in high school, she was able to afford our first home. I know what it means for an individual and a family to have home ownership. I also know, in the context of history, nobody got 40 acres and a mule. We have a history of a number of things, including redlining. Detroit knows it well. A history of, for example, something that still exists that I've worked on to address, which is racial bias in home appraisals.
Now, what I want to talk about is the middle class, right? Her version of the middle class is not what you would think the middle class. She didn't really grow up in like what you would say the middle class. She grew up in kind of like the upper middle class, the kind of more well-to-do middle class. Her dad is a famous economist in Jamaica, and her mother is a doctor who studies breast cancer. She went to Canada because she got a deal. At the age of 12, her and her sister and her mother moved to Canada, where she spent the rest of her childhood until after high school. Then after high school, she moved back to America to attend the HBCU. So from 12 years old to 18 years old, she lived in Canada with her mother, who studied breast cancer research. So she says, oh, my mother didn't have enough money to get to buy a house. She bought a house because she was studying breast cancer and had a contract in a couple of years. But before then, her and her father, they were moving around. They used to live in California. Then they moved to Chicago for a few years. And she talked about this in her book. Her and her sister moved around places to places. And then when they moved to Canada, that's when her mother got a job. She's telling the story out of context and out of order. And that makes it seem as if her mother was this homemade homemaker or something like that, or her mother made up beds in hotel rooms or whatever the case is, and she struggled every single day and finally was able to get a house. No, Her mother had some decent money. Her family, her Indian family had decent money. They were able to pay for her daughter's college, her mother's college. Her family comes from money on both sides. The slave owner side, do you know how much property her father's family owned, the Harris family owns? You know, the Harris family were very wealthy slave owners who own a lot of property in Jamaica. Her mother's Indian side of the family, they are all into the politics in India. She talks about that in her book. They have a lot of money. They were able to, and her mother is the first person to come to America from her mother's side of the family to go to school. They said, you know what, tuition, we're going to pay for everything. They paid for her entire tuition. She didn't come here on some type of struggling program or nothing like that. They paid for the whole tuition. They got bread like that. And then she got with her father, and they got bread. She didn't come from no poor. She's making it seem like she came from us. She came from the struggle, and no, she didn't. She was living pretty decent in Canada. We ain't gonna lie about that.
And we know home ownership is, Black families are 40% less likely to be homeowners than others. And that home ownership is one of the surest ways to build intergenerational wealth, right? Because when you own a home, that's when if your child says, Daddy, I want to go to college, you can say, sweetheart, don't have to take out a loan. I'll take some equity out of the house. Or if your child says, I want to start a small business, same point, right? So my plan includes making sure that for first-time home buyers, they have a $25,000 down payment assistance to just get their foot in the door, because we know folks will work hard, they'll save, and pay that monthly mortgage. Second point is to bring down.
And I want to say something too. Another part, and we got to really break this. Another part about the mortgage thing. You giving them 20, let's say that's decent. That's decent. What is the mortgage and interest rates? One of the main things that contribute to the mortgage is the interest rates. And there's been many studies discussing the discrimination of the interest rates. If you want to talk about monthly payments, the thing is that, yeah, you can give them the foot in the door, but if their interest rates are through the roof, if the mortgage rates is through the roof, they're going to eventually lose the house. Even if they have the first month's mortgage, or if they have the mortgage just to get the house, if they have the initial down payment to get the house, if you're not going to do anything with these corporations, which is what the problem really is when it comes to housing in America, is the fact that these big corporations and these big donors, they buy up all of the houses, and then they get to boost the prices however they want to do it. There's no regulation for the housing and the pricing control of these houses, because you have all of these donors and all of these corporations and private entities buying up single family homes. That's the real problem. So they get to just say whatever the price is, the price is. So yeah, you can get your foot in the door, but if every single month you're sitting up there scraping to make ends meet, you're going to lose the house. That's what happened with the housing crisis in 2008. Yeah, they gave them good programs. This is the same thing. They gave them good programs so they can get their foot in the door, and they were going to start paying the mortgage. And a lot of people's like, okay, well, we got a house, we got a decent mortgage, or whatever the case is. But it was set up from the beginning for them to lose, because eventually their mortgage got too much for them to keep up with. And when multiple people had their mortgage have their too much for them to keep up with, multiple people had to foreclose on their home at the same time, and that was creating a ripple effect issue. That's why the housing crisis happened in the first place. This is the same thing. You can give somebody a foot in the door, but if you're not going to do anything to regulate the people who own the homes and control the rent and all these predatory landlords, then eventually we're going to have another housing crisis.
The cost of housing generally, because one of the issues is we have a housing supply shortage, and so that's about working with the private sector. In terms of our small businesses, which are part of the backbone of the economy of the Black community and part of the backbone of America's economy writ large. My second mother, the woman who helped raise us, was a small business owner. I know who our small business owners are, and I have convened Black small business owners
way before I was running for president, in my official office at the White House, to talk with young entrepreneurs, mostly young, about the work that they are doing that is about clean energy work, technology, as well as the traditional, whether it be a barbershop or a restaurant.
So, because I know you guys probably forgot because she does a lot of word salad. The question was about reparations. That's what the question was about. It was about reparations. She's talking about this lift all boats thing when it comes to entrepreneurs and home ownership. That was not what the question was about. It was about reparations. Let's just remember that, because I know she goes long and long and long. You might even forget the question that was asked, but that was the question.
One of the big issues facing Black entrepreneurs and Black small businesses is access to capital. Because unlike my opponent, who got handed $400 million on a silver platter and then filed bankruptcy 6 times, don't forget that, calls himself a businessman. Not everybody has access to the capital, but we know in the community we do not lack for ambition, aspirations, dreams, hard work ethic. And so my work has been as vice president to increase billions of dollars into community banks. And as vice president, part of that work will also be to change the tax deduction for startup small businesses from $5,000 to $50,000.
Okay. And we're going to, because this is a lot. All right. So when any of the supporters come, this is what we're going to explain. Listen, as far as community banks, that's a scam. Don't listen to we put all this money in community banks. No. I don't want my reparations going to no community bank. Not through you. If I give my money and I put it in a community bank by my own choice, that's another thing. But don't tell me you're going to put money in a community bank and I'm supposed to go to the bank and apply for a loan with an interest rate and I get a loan from the community bank. No. And then you think because the buzzword community, that's supposed to be for you. She didn't say Black banks. Keep this in mind. Because community banks, that can be white-owned community banks, that can be Asian-owned community banks, that can be Black-owned community banks, but that's not no guarantee. That can be Hispanic-owned community banks. That can be anybody's community bank. So just say, well, we put it in a community bank. Well, let's be a little bit more specific with what community you put that money into. Because don't just say community banks. That's number one. Number two, a lot of these community banks discriminate against Black people trying to loan money. They discriminate. So the same way Chase does, the same way Bank of America does, the same way Wells Fargo does, the same way all of these major big banks do, community banks do the same way too. So what's going to happen is they're going to put all this money in community banks and allow the community banks to decipher who gets what at what interest rate. And then when Black folk get discriminated by the community banks, they're going to be like, oh, then we did give it to the community bank. You can't say nothing about me. I mean, what they do is what they do. We gave it to the community banks. That's all I know. And don't come to me. Go to them because we gave it to the community. You said you wanted money. We gave them the money. You figure that out with them. That's what they're going to tell us. So no, we're not going to do no community. No. We're not doing no community bank thing. We're not doing that. All right. Y'all didn't, when y'all gave the Japanese Americans, Chinese, when y'all gave the Japanese reparations, y'all didn't say, you know what, instead of giving reparations to you as an individual, we're going to put it in an Asian bank. And then you guys get to go to the Asian bank for a loan. You guys got to fill out an application for a loan, and you guys get to get your reparations through a loan. When y'all gave it to the $5 Indian Native Americans, y'all didn't say, well, we're going to give it to a bank, and then you guys can go to the bank and apply for a loan, and then they give you the money. No, you didn't do that. Y'all not even putting it in Hispanic. There's no immigrant bank that y'all giving the money to and telling all these immigrants who are coming here illegally to go to the bank and get no money. Y'all just giving them checks. Y'all giving them money. Y'all is like y'all won the lottery and went to a strip club. Y'all just throwing money everywhere. Y'all just sitting up there giving money to everybody. No, you're not going to do that with us. Here's the problem. We have to make sure, and we're winning, but we have to make sure we stay focused on this. The problem is you talk about community banks. We already know that means we never gonna get this money. That means we never gonna get this money. And then when we say, hey, we're not getting the money, they're gonna be like, hold on now we gave it to the community banks. You know why? You know how I know they're gonna do that? Because they did the same thing with FEMA. They did the exact same thing with FEMA. Hold on, let's remember the clip. Let me pull this clip up just to get a good why is my computer acting like that? Just to get a good refresher. Just to get a pretty good refresher. This is her with FEMA.
What we have been providing has included FEMA providing $750 for folks who need immediate needs being met, such as food, baby formula, and the like. And
$750 for FEMA. Remember that, right? The federal government has been giving money to FEMA, and then FEMA says, well, we're going to give you $750. And then guess what happened? The people who are actually on the ground, the actual citizens saying, hey, we're doing our best to apply for this money and we're not getting it. And then what they're going to say is that, hold on, now you can't say anything about us. We didn't do anything. That's FEMA. We don't know why FEMA's not giving you this money. If FEMA's not giving you the money, I guess you got to take it up with them, because that doesn't have anything to do with us. The same way the community banks are going to do. They're going to give it to a third party, and then that third party is not going to give it to us. And then they're going to be all like, well, hold on, that's not us. That's them. So you got to talk to them. The same way they did with FEMA. FEMA not giving them the money to the citizens. And then they all like, whoa, hold on. Well, we don't know exactly why FEMA's not doing it, but you got to talk to FEMA about it. So no, we're not going to play that game. Oh no, we're not going to play that game at all. Let me see. Back to this clip.
because nobody can start a small business on $5,000. And if you don't otherwise have intergenerational wealth, how are you going to be able to do it? Second point on small business is this. I'm going to do, basically, it's a program that is about a $20,000 non-refundable loan to a certain, to basically businesses that don't have access to wealth and don't have those relationships, which is going to directly impact a lot of Black-owned small businesses. That $20,000 non-refundable loan is what would help somebody if they need to buy equipment, right? If they need to buy an extra truck, depending on what that business is, which we know that's a big part of what holds back our small businesses. Just having enough capital to actually pay for the things that allow you to then put your hard work into play to actually grow your business. The other piece, and this is something that is critically important, is to see Black folks, and in particular Black men, as a whole human being, and understand that we are talking about sons, we are talking about fathers, we are talking about grandsons, we're talking about
Oh, okay. We're going to stop that. We're going to stop that. Now, I want you guys to remember she said all this stuff because it's going to be very relevant later. It's going to be very relevant later because this was her answer to reparations. Now, let's go to The View. The View had said something. Before we get to that, let me get to this the super chat. Shout out to our good sister Lisa. Lisa says, brother, she is a no for me. She is just a headache. She is. She's a terrible headache. A migraine. That's what she is. And thank you very much. So all of this, I want you to understand the Shade Room, Roland Martin, the Breakfast Club, all of these things she's supposed to be doing, all of these interviews she's supposed to be doing to appeal to Black people. This is supposed to be her big Black outreach, which is not going to help because the main problem is not the fact that she doesn't have a huge social media presence. She has a much larger social media presence than Donald Trump. She has much more money, much more people backing her. The whole machine, every single app is a signal boosting her. That's TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter. All of these things are signal boosting her. Twitter to a lesser degree because it's owned by Elon Musk, but especially all these other apps are signal boosting her. Her presence on social media is not the issue. The issue is the fact that as critical thinkers, we're saying that we don't like her plans and her policies as far as what she intends to do to solve this stuff for America, to solve these problems for America. We don't believe she can do it. And based off of her answer, we don't have any confidence that she's equipped to solve these problems. But she decided to do this thing. She decided to have a social media outreach to push the needle. It's not working. but they're going to tell you it is. Look at what The View had to say about it.
I mean, there you go. So, I mean, I thought we sort of talked about this yesterday, but will these kinds of appearances that she's making make inroads?
I think so, especially in terms of this.
Your hair looks gorgeous, by the way.
Oh, thank you, Will. Thank you. Thanks. I appreciate that. I think it will make a difference because of this division that they're trying to cause within the black community, and with this.
I just think it's a fallacy that black men are the problem. Black men are not the problem. When you look at the stats, the New York Times just came out with a poll. 80% of African Americans will be voting for Kamala Harris, and that includes black men. We're not talking. It was more from Biden. I think that's the issue, right?
No, this is about Harris.
That's not accurate. No. That's not accurate. Let's be very real. When she says 80% of the black community, what she means is 80% of the people who are going to vote will vote for her, which we already know. We already know she's going to get most of the black vote. Most of the black people who vote will vote for her. But how much is the most? She's not getting no 80% of black people voting for her. If she would, she wouldn't be sitting up there doing this. So she's telling this statistic, but it's out of context. Or actually, she's telling it wrong, to be very honest.
I know, right, but Biden had greater support with black men than Harris.
Yes, Biden but that still does not negate the fact that black men are still supporting Kamala Harris.
By and large.
Right, by and large. Right. And so, we're not talking about white women, we're not talking about Hispanic men, we're talking about black men, and they're not the problem. And demonizing black men, I think, needs to stop when it comes to Kamala Harris. The other thing that I think is really interesting.
I'm going to say this, as a black man, let me be very clear. Yes, we are. Yes, we are. We are the problem. We are your problem. We are the problem for the Democratic plantation. We are the problem. And I take a lot of pride in saying it. Oh, yes. Oh, definitely. Yes, we are. We're the problem. We are the problem. Don't take that away from us, because what you're going to do is you're going to say, well, we need to do something for other people. We're the problem because we gave you instructions and you laughed in our face. Not just black men, you laughed in black women's face too, because we got the same issues. We have the same problems. The same reason why black men are leaving the Democrats is the same reason black women are leaving the Democrats. We are not leaving for two different reasons. We don't have two different agendas. We don't have two different goals. We don't live in two different communities. Both black men and black women, when we step outside and we see the condition of the community, say this is a problem. So us, the black community, is definitely your problem. I just want to play a little bit more of this.
Interesting is that she promoted her policies about what she will do for Black America, a black agenda, as opposed to selling Bibles and gold sneakers and thinking that a mugshot is going to help get the black vote. She pointed out that the Biden administration, the Biden-Harris administration, black child poverty was cut in half. That's a fact I didn't know. She also said that they achieved the lowest black unemployment rate on record. You always hear Donald Trump saying that. That's just another one of his lies. And so I was happy that she went on this, because I think it just let people know that she is not new to being black, even though Donald Trump says that, right? She's not new to being black. She went to HBCU. Yeah, she went to HBCU. She's an AKA.
So what? She went to HBCU.
With crime. He's the worst one on that.
I think the reason that this conversation around black men is happening is because the black vote has been such a core part of the Democratic base. And even with a little bit of slippage in numbers from support that Biden had in 2020, that could ultimately decide the race. But interestingly, I've never actually seen this as a race issue. So over the last 20 years, there's been a shift of working class voters from kind of the Clinton coalition of the left moving toward Donald Trump, and more college educated voters moving to the Democratic Party.
Okay. She said that the working class is moving to Trump and the college-educated class is moving to the Democratic Party. We're going to show you statistics in just a second, and that's not true. And I want to say this to be very clear. It is a black problem. This is a race problem. This is a race problem because you guys have neglected the black community. It's not the working class, because they're trying to deflect and they're trying to say, well, really, the problem isn't really the black community, because the black community is fine. They're fine. They're doing great, actually. The problem is the working class. We need to do more for the working class. Oh, no. No. No, it's black folk. That's your problem.
I tend to think that this percentage of black men is more evident of just going with the party that's more representative, or that they feel is more representative of the working class. But there's some interesting data that we got as well.
No, it ain't got nothing to do with the working class. And I'm going to show you it ain't got nothing to do with the working class. Let's look at these statistics real fast. This comes recently. Then this has been updated. This is from the New York Times. This is literally 10 days ago. This poll was taken 10 days ago. When it comes to all voters, she has less than 80%. And the gray area, so you guys know, that's independent. That's indecisive. Those are for the people who are indecisive. All right. So she has about 78, which is not what she needs, because I want you guys to understand Obama had 90. She has about 80. Let's say, give or take, it's in the margin area. Let's say 80. Trump has more than he's ever had of black support among all black voters. Now let's look at it by gender. 70% of black men of all ages said that they were going to vote for Harris. 20% said that they were going to vote for Donald Trump. And there's a number. I wish they would show the number, but they're not actually showing the number in the gray area that has not made a decision. That's not going either way. Now, when you look at black women, it's 80%, 83%, and 12%, which is a bigger number than it's ever been before. Donald Trump in total got only 12% or a little less, I believe, in the 2020. So now he's getting 12% just purely off women. He had a much larger base, or Biden had a much larger base of black folk, and then especially black women. Now, black women are not as more for, Donald Trump, or not as undecided as black men are. But as you can see, it's a decent number of black women who are not that. And then when you look here among the ages, this is under 25 or 45, 77. And then this is above 45, 79. There's less people who are kind of in the middle. And then you see there's a decent amount that says 15% for Trump, 14% for Trump. Now, remember what she said the last time. The last thing she said is, well, more of the working class, they're going for Donald Trump. And then more of the college educated class, they're going for the Democrats. Okay, that's what she said, right? When you look at this, college, this is by black people who graduated college at 79%, and then 14% for Trump. Black people who had no college education or didn't graduate college at 78% for the Democrats, and then 15% for Trump. Black people, regardless of education, and I wanted you guys to see this poll because I need you guys to understand, regardless of the education level, they have the same issues. And I'm saying and showing you guys this to show you guys, because they'll say, well, it's just the fact that certain black people, they don't really have the education level. They don't really the more college, which means more highly educated black people, they're going for the Democrats. The working class, yeah, they're going for Donald Trump. No, why? The working class and the college, they're pretty much neck and neck. College educated is right here, and then no college, they're right here. They're pretty much at the same level. And as you can see, there's a shrinking level between black men and black women who are on the Democratic plantation. This is not pushing the needle. She can say, oh, yeah, Charlamagne did a great interview. He's really pushing the needle. Why this is not working is because as people who are independent, as people who are critical thinkers, they're going to look at this and they're going to say, she gets the easiest questions I've ever seen a political candidate ever get. She gets handed the questions with the answer. She gets multiple choice answers with every question. They damn near don't ever let her just freestyle. She gives the same answers to the question as if she's remembered it. She gives the same talking points, the same spiel about I'm coming from a middle class, her godmother being a small business owner, and she loves small businesses. She gives the same answer. But when you go to a platform where she's not getting essentially a handout, where she's not getting put on a pedestal, she does terrible. Look at this. Where is it? Right here. So she did this with Fox News. Oh, hold on. This saying my browser's like, what? Hold on. Okay, give me 1 second, y'all. I don't know why I just tweaked like that. Okay. No, I'm sorry about that, y'all. You know, sometimes that happens. It happens, but it's okay. We back. We
Thank you. It's good to be with you, Brett.
You know,
okay.
voters tell pollsters all over the country and here in Pennsylvania that immigration is one of the key issues that they're looking at this election, and specifically the influx of illegal immigrants from more than 150 countries. How many illegal immigrants would you estimate your administration has released into the country over the last 3.5 years?
Well, I'm glad you raised the issue of immigration because I agree with you. It is a topic of discussion that people want to rightly have, and you know what I'm going to talk about.
Yeah, but
right
do you
now,
just a
which
number?
is-
Do you think it's 1 million, 3 million?
Brett, let's just get to the point. Okay, the point is that we have a broken immigration system that needs to be repaired.
So your Homeland Security Secretary said that 85.
Now, here's the thing. On Fox News, they don't like her. That's the problem. They don't like her. So when she tries to dodge the question, he's going to ask the question again. Because he asks her a direct question, how many of them do you think? And she's all like, okay, well, let's just get to the point. We do have this, and this is why people are losing or leaving the party, and they are not following her, and they don't have a lot of strength in her, because anytime she gets any pushback, she crumbles it completely. She breaks down like a folding chair. All right. She completely breaks down and folds like a chair. Anytime she gets any bit of pushback, look at this. She does terrible right here because they're not handing her the answers on a silver platter.
5% of apprehensions.
I'm not finished. We have
it's a
an
rough
immigration
estimate of 6 million people have been released into the country. And let me just finish. I'll get to the question. I promise you.
I was beginning to answer.
And when you came into office, your administration immediately reversed a number of Trump border policies. Most significantly, the policy that required illegal immigrants to be detained through deportation, either in the U.S. or in Mexico.
Come on.
And you switched that policy. They were released from custody, awaiting trial. So instead, included in those were a large number of single men, adult men, who went on to commit heinous crimes. So looking back, do you regret the decision to terminate Remain in Mexico at the beginning of your administration?
At the beginning of our administration, within practically hours of taking the oath, the first bill that we offered Congress, before we worked on infrastructure, before the Inflation Reduction Act, before the Chips and Science Act, before the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, the first bill, practically within hours of taking the oath, was a bill to fix our immigration system.
Yes, ma'am. It was called the U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021.
Exactly.
It was essentially a pathway to citizenship for the. Yes, ma'am.
May I finish?
I mean, she could finish. I would suppose she could, but look how long it took her to get to that point. The first thing before we did this, before we did this, before we did this, before we did this. You know, how many of you guys are teachers or have a child or something like that, and you ask them a question and they start giving you a whole bunch of things as they're trying to figure out the answer? Like, for instance, if you ask a kid, what is 10 plus 10? As they're trying to calculate the answer, of course, we'd say 20 if you know the answer, but they might not know the answer. So they're counting in their head. So they got to talk real slow as their brain is trying to calculate the answer at the same time. So when you say, what is 10 plus 10? They be all like, well, 10 plus 10, if you have 10 things and then you add another 10 things together, you're putting the 10 and the 10 together and you add them up and you want to know that 20 is the answer. 20. Yeah, that's it. That's 20. Yeah, that's because they didn't know the answer. So they're being very long, really rewording the question. Every time you ask them a question, they gotta reword the question. Well, let's take this back from the beginning. Let's talk about the fundamentals of addition in math. 10 plus 10. We gotta first talk about 1 plus 1, and that equals 2, and then 1 plus 2, and that equals 3. And then 1 plus 3, and you got to talk about that over and over. They're doing that because they're stalling. That's what she was doing. She was just stalling because she's being asked a question that her PR team has not prepped her for, and she fumbles every time she does that. Come on now. This is terrible. This is why she's losing.
Finish responding, please. But you have to let me finish.
You
please.
had the White House and the House and the Senate,
I'm
and they
in the
didn't
middle
bring up
of
that bill.
responding to the point you're raising,
Okay.
and I'd like to finish.
Yes, ma'am.
We recognized from day one that, to the point of this being your first question, it is a priority for us as a nation and for the American people. And our focus has been on fixing a problem. And from day one, then, we have done a number of things, including to address our asylum system and put more resources, getting more judges, what we needed to do to tighten up penalties and increase penalties for illegal crossings, what we needed to do to deal with points of entry between border entry points. That's the work we did, and we worked on supporting what was a bipartisan effort, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Congress, to actually strengthen the border. That border bill would have put 1,500 more border agents at the border.
Here she go with that again. Here she goes.
Agents supported the bill. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming
Here
into
she,
the
oh
United
my,
States, which
here
is a
she goes.
scourge
Come on, y'all.
affecting people of every background.
Here she goes with the same.
Every geographic location in our country, killing people. It would have allowed us to put more resources into prosecuting transnational criminal organizations, which I have done as the Attorney General, former Attorney General of a border state.
Madam Vice President, a couple of things.
Prosecuted trafficking of drugs, guns, and human beings. And Donald Trump, but let me just finish.
6 Democrats voted against that bill.
Learned about that bill and told them to kill it because he preferred to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And in this election, this is rightly a discussion that the American people want to have. And what they want are solutions, and they want a president of the United States who's not playing political games with the issue,
I hear you.
but actually is focused on fixing it.
6 Democrats voted against that bill. It would have allowed 1.8 million illegal immigrants into the country a year. A lot of conservatives had a problem with it. These are the 6 Democrats. But more important,
now she ain't ready for that. And I remember saying this on YouTube a while ago. They make it seem like the bill passed through with flying colors. A lot of Republicans, there were some conservative Republicans who are willing to sign that bill just so they can do something with immigration. But a lot of Republicans didn't want to sign that bill or were kind of indifferent about it. You think they were super, super solid and Donald Trump made one phone call and they just dropped the bill? No. Most of them were indifferent. He brought up 6 Democrats who didn't want to sign that bill. She keep making it seem like that was the most popular bill of all time and everybody wanted to sign it until Donald Trump just made a call and he was able to brainwash people like Professor Xavier through the telephone and make them not sign the bill. See, she's not ready for pushback to her talking points. And she doesn't have a response for that.
importantly, back to the original premise, Jocelyn Nungari, Rachel Morin, Laken Riley, they are young women who were brutally assaulted and killed by some of the men who were released at the beginning of the administration, well before a negotiated bipartisan bill. Former President Clinton actually referred to Laken Riley Sunday campaigning for you in Georgia, saying if those men had been properly vetted, Laken Riley probably would not have been killed. So if it wouldn't have happened, this is well before any negotiation. This is well before Donald Trump got involved in the politics. This is a specific policy decision by your administration to release these men into the country. So what I'm saying to you, do you owe
Brett,
those families an apology?
Let me just say, first of all, those are tragic cases. There's no question about that. There's no question about that. And I can't imagine the pain that the families of those victims have experienced for a loss that should not have occurred. So that is true. It is also true that if a border security had actually been passed 9 months ago, it would be 9 months that we would have had more border agents at the border, more support for the folks who are working around the clock trying to hold it all together.
Madam Vice President.
To ensure
Now, look, you can come on. She is doing terrible. She's doing, and we just played, and this is why she's losing. I want you to let's really home this in. This is why she's losing. We're gonna finish playing the rest. This is why she's losing. She's losing because every single time she does an interview with Charlemagne, Roland, anybody who favors her, the bias is so abundantly clear. It is so abundantly clear, and it makes her look inept, to be very honest. It makes her look inept the way they're sitting up there handing her the answer and giving her all these softball answers and giving her all these scripted questions. It makes her look inept because when you juxtapose that to when she goes on Fox News, she gets completely obliterated. She gets completely destroyed. And you know, I can't stand Fox News. I can't stand them. But they are whooping her. They said these are the people who lost their lives. These are the American victims who lost their lives due to the migrant crisis. This is way before y'all said Donald Trump killed the bill. This is way before then. This is right in the beginning. And then what does she do? She says, yeah, they shouldn't have, and that's a tragedy, and then goes back to the bill. And the reason why she does this is because she's been taught and trained. She literally has training on this stuff. She's been trained. Any single time they discuss immigration, always 100% of the time go back to that bipartisan bill. Every time they say anything, go back to the bipartisan bill, because then you can tie that to Trump and then you can say it's Trump's fault. Always try to circle around and find a way to blame it on Trump. Do it every single time. She's not used to any pushback or fact checking. Now, remember, what's so interesting is during the debate that they claimed she won, they was all like, oh, she won because they was fact checking Trump and Trump was lying. Trump was lying. This looks like some real fact checking. I'm going to be very honest with you. This looks like when she gets fact checked, she fumbles. So this is why they didn't fact check her during the debate, because this is what it would have looked like. This is what it would have looked like. Let's continue. She's getting destroyed right here. And to be honest, he ain't even doing that much. He's not even doing that much.
Or that no future harm would occur. And this election in 20 days will determine whether we have a president of the United States who actually cares more about fixing a problem, even if it is not to their political advantage in an election, because there was a solution, Brett.
Madam Vice President, it was a policy decision in the early part of your administration. I will let one of the mothers talk about it. Take a listen.
Because of the Biden-Harris administration open border policies catch and release, they were enrolled in the Alternatives to Detention program. This meant that they were released into the United States. It was not even a full 3 weeks later that they would take my daughter, Jocelyn Nungare's life. I believe the Biden-Harris administration open border policies are responsible for the death of my daughter.
That's the early days. So do you owe them an apology is what I'm saying.
I will tell you that I am so sorry for her loss. I'm so sorry for her loss. Sincerely. But let's talk about what is happening right now with an individual who does not want to participate in solutions. Let's talk about that as well.
Notice she did not apologize. Just keep that in mind. She said, yeah, I'm so sorry for your loss. That's not an apology for what she did, because anybody can say, yeah, I'm sorry for your loss, but that's not admitting any guilt. What she's doing is she is refusing to admit that her and Biden are the problem. her and Biden caused the problem. She's refusing to admit that. To say, I'm sorry for your loss, is not admitting the fact that the problem was you and your administration. And then she immediately, I keep on saying, immediately goes back to trying to put the blame on Donald Trump. Let's be honest. When Donald Trump lost the election, a lot of people assumed that he was going to run again, but we didn't even know that. Donald Trump didn't initially start running again. He didn't initially announce his he's running. And so I think it was 2023, I believe. That's when he announced he was running, or either late 2022, but I think it was 2023 when he announced that he was running. Maybe late 2022, maybe. I'm not sure. But in 2021, we didn't know he was going to be running again. I know that for a fact. That young lady, her death was in 2021. So this ain't have nothing at all to do with Donald Trump. And she says, I'm sorry. And all she can think about is what my training is. Go back to Donald Trump. Let's go back to let's talk about Donald Trump. Let's talk about Donald Trump. That's not going to work this time. If he was sitting down with Charlemagne, if you were sitting down with Roland, if you were sitting down with whatever that dude name is on the Shade Room, if you were sitting down with either one of them, it would have flied, but not right here. And this is why, as an independent voter, you listen to her on Roland or her on the Breakfast Club, and then you listen to her on Fox, and then you would make the intelligent decision. Oh, she can't handle this. Oh, she can't handle this, because they're babying her and they're treating her like a real candidate, and she's fumbling the bag.
In all fairness, I told you, I feel awful for what she and her family have experienced.
During that time, you said repeatedly that the border was secure. When in your mind did it start becoming a crisis?
I think we've had a broken immigration system transcending, by the way, Donald Trump's administration even before. Let's all be honest about that. I have no pride in saying that this is a perfect immigration system. I've been clear, I think we all are, that it needs to be fixed. We need more. I was just down at the border talking with border agents, and they will tell you, and I'm sure I know you investigate and you are a serious journalist. They will tell you, we need more judges. We need to process those cases faster. We need the support for those cases that should be prosecuted. They need more resources, and Congress ultimately is the only place that's going to get fixed, Brett. Well, that's how this system works.
That's the premise of this question. There were 90+ executive orders that were rescinded in the first days. Many of those were Trump border policies. I'm not going to stay here because there's other things to talk about, but you frequently talk to the Border Patrol Union for support of that bipartisan bill, and they did. They supported it. But they also just endorsed Donald Trump and said, you've been, quote, a failure with border security. Why do you think they said that?
Damn.
I think they're frustrated, and I get it. They want support. They want support, and that's what that border security bill would have done. These guys down at the border, these men and women, they're working hard. They're working around the clock. I get it.
There's a lot of people that look back at what you said in 2019 when you first ran for president. And there have been changes, and you've talked about some of them. When it comes to immigration, you supported allowing immigrants in the country illegally to apply for driver's license, to qualify for free tuition at universities, to be enrolled in free health care. Do you still support those things?
Listen, that was 5 years ago, and I'm very clear that I will follow the law. I have made that statement over and over again, and as Vice President of the United States, that's exactly what I've done, not to mention before.
If that's the case.
I didn't answer that question at all. You don't know her stance. She sidestepped that. You're going to follow the law. What does that mean?
You chose a running mate, Tim Walz, who governor of Minnesota.
Now, here's where they get it. See, they're not used to real journalists giving them like a setup question. They're not used to this, because now watch what he does now. Now he brings up Tim Walz,
who signed those very things into state law. So do you support that?
Come on, man.
We are very clear, and I am very clear, as is Tim Walz, that we must support and enforce federal law, and that is exactly what we will do.
So decriminalizing border crossings, like you said in 2019.
I do not believe in decriminalizing border crossings, and I've not done that as vice president. I will not do that as president.
So these are evolutions that you've had.
But let's be very clear. I'm the only person who's running for president who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations, from the Sinaloa cartel to the Guadalajara cartel to people who have trafficked in guns, drugs, and human beings. I have spent a significant part of my career going after people who present a threat to the safety of the American people and cross our border with the intent of doing us harm and cross our border illegally. And I will do that work as vice president. I take that work quite seriously.
That y'all, let me tell you something. Oh, it's a wrap. Oh, that's a wrap. That is such a wrap. I can't even really express that, to be very honest with you. It's so over. It's so done. I can't even really express that. This is terrible. They're not going to break, because it's not like he was lying. It's not like he was bringing up things that are not true. See, the second she gets on a platform that's giving her any type of fact checking, the second she gets on a platform that's going to push back on her, she fumbles the ball. Now, they do this all the time with Donald Trump, and they say, see, Trump is lying. Trump isn't really articulate. Trump isn't really intelligent. Trump doesn't really know who he's talking about. She gets up there. Imagine a family, a mother whose daughter lost her life because of the immigration policies that her and Biden passed. And then for her to get up there and say, I'm sorry, but let's talk about something else. I'm sorry for your loss, but let's talk about how ultimately this is Donald Trump's fault. This is why when it comes to the independent voters, she's losing. This is why she's losing that. Because when they look at clips from the Breakfast Club and they look at clips from Roland Martin, the Shade Room, The View, and all of this stuff that is deliberately there to make her look good, and then they look at clips that are from independent sources, and I could even have played the 60-minute interview. When they look at independents like 60 Minutes, when they look at Fox News, she does terrible. So the only time you see her doing well is when she has a handicap. That's the only time. The only time she seems like she's on top of everything and she's cool, calm, and collected and she has the right answers is when people are literally giving her the answers with the question. That's the only time. Besides that, if she steps in any other environment, if they ask her the question again, if they don't allow her to sidestep the question, and to be very honest, he was very cool because she at least attempted to sidestep most of his questions, all of his questions, to be honest. She was able to get away with a couple of them, but even still with certain things she said, he was able to, bam, check her right then and there. And she didn't have any type of response, any type of rebuttal to it. This is why she's losing, because people can see, oh, every time we ask you about immigration, you're going to say the same thing. You're going to say the whole border bill and everything like that. And Donald Trump killed the border bill and it's really all his fault. All of the border problems are all his fault. So the last 3 years of the border crisis didn't exist. Only the last 6 months exist because you guys get to blame that on Donald Trump. The second she goes anywhere at all that doesn't allow her to get away with that talking point, she does terrible. She does absolutely terrible. And this is why she's losing. She's not just losing when it comes to the black vote. She's losing when it comes to votes in general. But most importantly, the black vote. Because when black people who are not on the Democratic plantation are going to just vote for her just because, and when black people who are looking like, you know what, I'm not going to say I'm for Trump, but I'm not guaranteed to be for Kamala. So I'm going to ask her this question like that one lady did with the Breakfast Club. What are you going to do with our tax dollars that you send into Ukraine? Oh, I'm going to keep doing that, but I'm going to help you all also. What do you think she thought about that answer? You think she thought that that was a good answer? That she's not going to stop sending them money, but she's also going to help us too a little bit? You think that was a good answer? No, it wasn't. These people who are watching this stuff, these people who are independent, I'm guaranteeing you, and there's going to be another poll coming up soon. The independents are leaving and leaning away from her. She's fumbling her own bag. She was never really meant to run, brothers and sisters. And this is terrible. This is absolutely terrible. I'm gonna say this before all said and done. We're gonna go through maybe one or two more polls, at least one more poll, and we're gonna see that the numbers of independent Black folk who are free thinking, who are gonna look at things from an objective point of view, they're going to be even smaller for the Democrats. I'm telling you, nothing she's doing right now is moving the needle for her. As a matter of fact, she should have done any of this stuff, because all of this stuff she's doing is actually making her look worse. Every time she goes on one of these interviews that literally help her, that assist her, that give her a handout, it makes her look worse. She did a huge thing with Oprah. Is anybody talking about that? No. No. She did a thing with Oprah. Nobody's talking about that. She did a thing with The View. Nobody's talking about that. She did a thing with nobody's really talking about that, because those things keep making her look worse. They're not helping her at all. She can keep going on interviews until the day of the election. It's not going to matter, because that stuff is not going to make her look any better. As a matter of fact, it's going to make her look worse, because people are going to get annoyed by the fact that they keep asking her for a specific answer, and she finds a way to flip the question and go back to a trained talking point. That gets very annoying. When you ask, okay, well, our tax dollars are going to the Ukraine. Our tax dollars are going overseas. What about the citizens? Well, I come from a middle-class family. Do you not think that that annoys the hell out of people? Do you not think that people are annoyed as hell that she grew up in a middle-class family, which she kind of really didn't? That annoys people, because people, you ask Donald Trump not talking about how he grew up. Donald Trump's not talking about his great-grandmother, and Donald Trump's not talking about how somebody in his family had a small business or how he cooked greens in the bathtub. Donald Trump's not talking about that stuff. Donald Trump's not talking about his job at McDonald's. He probably never worked at McDonald's, but he's not talking about his summer job. He's answering the question. Love him or hate him, that's what he is. You can love his answer or hate his answer. At least that's what he's doing. She's getting every single question that's being asked to her, she has to pull it away and then make it into some type of story. People hate that. And this is why she's losing. Because all of these people who are trying to ass kiss can't even see that. She's not even around enough people to say, hey, what you're doing is not working. She's around everybody sitting up there kissing her ass, and they can't even understand that all of this ass kissing that they're doing is actually making her look worse. I'm talking about from Magic Johnson. I'm talking about from Charlemagne. I'm talking about from Roland. I'm talking about from Whoopi Goldberg. I'm talking about from Angela Rye. I'm talking about from Oprah. I'm talking about from Obama. Everybody is making her look worse. Everybody. Her campaign is done, y'all. It's a wrap. It's over with. Let me see. Scotty sends a super chat. Says zero accountability, childlike tantrums, which is what she showed a lot of attitude. The other guy was being more professional and respectful. She showed a lot of attitude. Let me see. She cares all the way out. She cares all the way out. She even showed her teeth like she wanted to attack that man. Yeah, she did. She was mad that he gave any, because she's not used to it. She's not used to any pushback. She's not used to that. And the second he was all like, hold on, I got the facts to fact check you, because they want to fact check everybody else. Let me fact check you. She doesn't have anything to say about it. She can't even admit. She saw a video of a mother crying because she lost her daughter to this crazy immigrant problem. And she said, I'm so sorry for your loss, but let's talk about Donald Trump. What do you think that mother is going to say? What do you think she's going to, not just the mother, what do you think that, that mother's friend is going to say? If I lost my friend because of this crazy border crisis, and I hear this person running and they say, yeah, I'm sorry, but it's Donald Trump's fault, and I know it's not, what do you think I'm going to feel about that? What do you think her grandparents are going to feel about that? What do you think her uncle or anybody who knew her or any of the victims to these immigrants are going to feel about that? What do you think to the people who lost their homes in California, who lost that apartment complex in California? What do you think they're going to feel about that? What do you think the people in Chicago are feeling about this? What do you think everybody who's affected by this immigrant crisis is feeling about this right now? While you're sitting there, keep trying to blame Donald Trump as if this problem only existed for the last 6 months. What do you think everybody's going to feel about that? Because you do not want to say that you and Biden messed up. Since you cannot admit that you and Biden messed up, what do you think everybody's going to think about that? It's not looking good for. It's not. Yep. Malcolm X said the Democrats are they are against black people, and we gonna see. And I want it to be known, let us be very, very clear. When they lose, it is going to be because of the black vote. It is not going, don't talk about no working class. I don't want to hear nothing about no unions. I don't want to hear nothing about nothing at all. I don't even want you guys to say men in general. It is black community. It is the black community, men and women. Don't try to scapegoat. Don't try to get this off. It is black men and women who cost you your loss. Now, we got to get out of here, family, but I need you guys to follow me on my various social media platforms. That is Afro Elite on Instagram, and then The Afro Elite on Twitter. Afro Elite on Instagram, The Afro Elite on Twitter or X. The link is in the description below. All right. Also, please, if you guys will, hit that like button. I know you guys have been doing that a lot. Hit that like button before you guys get out of here. Or if you guys are listening on a playback, hit that like button and hit that subscribe button so we can, because we getting the subscribers coming in now. We're getting a lot of new viewers coming in. So if you guys are new, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Also, double check to make sure you guys have that subscribe button on. And hit that notification bell. All right? Hit that notification bell. It's about time. We getting out of here. We getting them up out of here. We are getting up out of here. So now with that being said, my brothers and my sisters, I say B1 salute to every single last one of you all. And of course, you all have a good one.